It's the biggest presentation of your life, or so it seems at that moment. Dum dum dum. You're selling your startup's fancy fintech product to some major bank, and you're meeting with the, I don't know, respective heads of departments this morning. It's make or break. There are many millions at stake. You're a little bit sleep deprived, and you find yourself shuffling through your notes in the waiting room, stuffing precisely 6 mints into your mouth, and you realize that it's not really helping. Your hands are shaking a little bit. The door, it starts to edge open, and someone peers through. Mr. Joe Schmo, we're ready for you. You nod, and you quickly crunch and swallow those mints. I mean, you don't want to spit them out by accident when you start talking later on. You walk in, you're still a little bit shaky. You stroll towards the head of the desk, one that has a makeshift nameplate called Joe Schmo in front of the empty chair. All eyes are on you. You clear your throat. And then you go, good morning, everyone. My name is Joe Schmo. I... A few months back, I was asked to MC a charity concert, and I actually got this call while I was on the train just 2 days before the event. But I thought, in the immortal words of Richard Branson, screw it, let's do it. The moment I agreed, my heart started thumping like crazy. Excited, nervous, all at once. And then I realized, oh crap, I'm gonna have to do this in English and in Mandarin too? Fine, challenge accepted. I practiced like hell. Fast forward to the day of the event, I was pacing back and forth backstage, muttering to myself all the names of the Italian, German, and even Czech songs, and was enunciating and then re-enunciating the names of the people to be credited. 5 minutes to go, the stage manager reminds me we're about to start. While backstage, I spoke into the mic. Ladies and gentlemen, the concert is about to begin. Please take your seats. In both English and Mandarin. And then I made my way onto the stage. And no matter how many times you've spoken in public, it's almost always terrifying. It could be $1 million pitch to a bank. It could just be a team meeting via Zoom. You could even be proposing to someone. Okay, that's a little bit elevated in terms of stress level. Those butterflies, they just never go away. I've done public speaking of many varied forms for more than 20 years now. So here's the age reveal. And each time, I'm still nervous as hell. I can't get rid of those damn butterflies. And then, it's over. And you think, the hell? It's done? I just stressed over this for 48 hours straight? And it's over? And, it's not so bad. I only squeaked that one time. As the adrenaline peaks to an unholy level, it eventually drops. Well, because if it doesn't, you might actually need a trip to the ER. So here I am, I'm talking into my Blue Yeti mic, doing this podcast episode like it's nothing, an everyday thing. And people tell me, surely, you must be an extrovert. You must be someone who enjoys talking and being on the so-called front page. Honestly though, it couldn't be further from the truth. I consider myself more introverted than anything. I'm the type of guy that will crash on his couch at the end of the day after a big presentation. Now, during college, I remember watching a show called Top Gear, thinking to myself, wow, it must be so fun to speak in front of a camera. I thought, let me try this out. It should be really cool. So literally, every class I took that semester, I became that super earnest and possibly annoying kid that raised his hand to offer to do every presentation imaginable in front of the class. Now, one thing led to the other. I represented my companies during my career on speaking endeavors, presentations, trainings, workshops. I broadcasted for television. This was actually during my bachelor's. Anyway, I've hosted 2 podcasts, one for a fintech startup and the other for my MBA program. And then there's this podcast. But even then, I'm still almost always nervous as hell. I get that so-called pre-speaking jitters. So people call these jitters, if you will, butterflies, right? Where it feels like a swarm of butterflies. They're obviously stuck in the confines of your stomach, flapping about and screaming, if they could, "Get me the hell out of this dark and holy place!" For me, it doesn't feel that way. No butterflies. Instead, my hands feel numb, sweaty, shaky. My heart starts to thump a little bit, and it feels as though some sort of pre-heart attack is going to happen. And then I get onto center stage, and my left or maybe right leg starts to shake. Also, with the advent of COVID, we somehow found more ways to be nervous as hell. God knows how many interviews, presentations, and talks I've had to deal with staring into my webcam in front of some interviewer or some VIP. Some may disagree. You'll say that, hey, interviewing in front of a webcam in the comfort of your own shirt and cheekily in your own underwear is usually less scary than doing so in person, right? To each their own. But it's still nerve-wracking. Have you found yourself, calm as you may or may not be, not really staring into the webcam, not even trying to find yourself looking at the person on the other side, but instead you're staring at your individual point of view. You're trying to see if your hair is done up just right, and then you realize, oh shit, there's something brownish hanging loosely at the edge of my right nostril. Now come on now, admit it, it's happened. It definitely has happened to me. And then you awkwardly pretend, right, to move out of camera view to your right side maybe, and then take a pretend swig of your coffee while actually you're just swiping at your right nostril to get rid of that snot. And then later on, you spend the rest of that conversation trying to figure out where that snot landed, for later because you want to have to clean up post-call. I always hear people say the more practiced you are, the less nervous you get. Now, if you heard this in some way, shape, or form, just know it's a little bit bullshit. Now, it's not untrue. It's definitely true to some degree, but here's the caveat. You become more prepared, sure, but you're still nervous as hell. There's no feeling significantly less nervous, but it doesn't mean it's any less relevant. I am, I think, pretty damn fortunate because even though I feel nervous, it hardly ever shows up on my face, so people must think I must be so skilled or something. No, I am not. I'm just lucky. I realize that we'll always be nervous. Even the most practiced individuals like Steve Jobs or whoever it may be, they will be nervous. Accept the hell out of it first. Then you figure out the coping mechanisms to deal with it. Aha, you ask, right? What are these coping mechanisms, Kai? Well, I'm glad you asked. So one of these coping mechanisms is screw it, let's do it, but let's have fun while you're at it. I'm a big fan of Richard Branson, and I remember one of his philosophies is literally screw it and just do it. Maybe it's just to get over the fear of public speaking or that it's a presentation that needs to be done one way or another for a class. And if you need to do it, then go all the way. But why be so stressed about it? One of the best ways I deal with public speaking is inserting some degree of humor into the equation. Make people laugh. And when they do, you relax. And when you relax, even just a little bit, everything just becomes a little bit more chill. It's like having a coffee chat with your friends. The second point is this. Everyone is a cute little minion. Now, what the hell are you talking about, Kai? I used to tell people, imagine your audience are naked minions, because it's just damn funny. And then I very quickly realized that, shit, that's a little bit inappropriate, regardless of gender, so scratch the naked minions. But minions are still funny either way, so imagine your audience as that. Anything to put your mind at ease and a smile on your face. I mean, imagine your professor or that evil-looking interviewer as a yellow, one-eyed, cheeky minion. And then, poof, problem solved, at least to some degree. The third thing is to stare into the distance. Now, when people say, when you present, you must look into the eyes of your audience, that's bloody crazy for me. I mean, that just makes me more nervous. Especially when I accidentally stare into some cute lady's eyes or something. Bloody hell, no. You stare into the distance. You stare between the seats, above someone's head, whatever. Just don't look up at the ceiling because people think there's probably some lizard crawling up there that might drop at any second. And don't stare down into the ground because people just think you're a little kid who's just had a talking to. The last piece of advice that I'll leave you with is to go nuts in front of a mirror in the bathroom. Yeah, this sounds so trivial, but it's incredibly fun actually. 10 minutes before speaking, You head into the bathroom, you stare in front of a mirror, and yell, "Yeah!" while smiling and stretching your facial muscles. You instantly become more relaxed. Well, almost instantly. Try it, it's fun. Just hope that no one else is in the bathroom or they'll get freaked out big time. One or a combination of these have worked for me in some way. So I can't really talk about that big fancy fintech product, but I'll talk about me and that emceeing and the concert. There I was, I walk onto the stage, I look up and realize I'm facing 560-ish people, not including the staff and volunteers backstage and those manning the exits. I'm obviously nervous, we've established that. And joy of joys, my right leg starts to shake uncontrollably. Fortunately, no one can see my leg shaking since I'm standing behind a rostrum. So, Kai 1, butterflies 0. On a whim, I balance on my left leg. Problem solved. And then I begin.